Before firearms, before explosions shook the battlefield, there was silence, not the absence of danger, but a quiet tension, where every breath mattered and every movement could mean the difference between life and death. A weapon that struck from a distance, unseen, unheard, and deadly. Arrows cut through the air with little warning, swift, precise, and often invisible until it was too late. The bow, one of humanity's oldest and most powerful inventions, simple in form, yet devastating in skilled hands, capable of hunting, defending, and shaping the outcome of battles long before steel met steel. But like all weapons, it evolved. The first bows were simple, crafted from wood, shaped by hand and necessity. Powered only by human strength, they carried no metal, no mechanism, just tension, skill, and instinct. They were not born as weapons of war, but as tools of survival, used to hunt in the wild, to protect against unseen threats, to endure in a world where survival was never guaranteed. Each arrow released was a decision between hunger and sustenance, between danger and safety. In the hands of early humans, the bow became more than a tool. It became an extension of will, a quiet force that shaped the course of survival itself. But like all weapons, it did not remain the same. It adapted, it improved, it evolved. But innovation changed everything. What began as a simple tool was transformed by human ingenuity into something far more formidable. The composite bow, crafted from layers of wood, horn, and sinew, was no longer bound by the limits of a single material. Each layer had a purpose. Each piece added strength, flexibility, and resilience. It became stronger, more flexible, more powerful. Able to bend further without breaking, it could store far greater energy and release it with deadly precision and force. Lighter, faster, and more efficient than its predecessors, it gave its wielder an undeniable advantage. In the hands of mounted warriors, riding at full speed across open terrain, it became something else entirely. Not just a weapon, but a force of dominance. Striking from a distance, moving faster than the enemy could react, it became unstoppable. On horseback, speed became their greatest weapon. No longer bound by the limits of the ground, they moved like the wind, swift, unpredictable, untouchable. Warriors could strike, retreat, and strike again, all without ever engaging directly. They circled their enemies, loosing arrows with deadly precision, never staying long enough to be caught. What seemed like chaos was mastery of movement and timing. Entire armies fell, not to swords or shields, but to arrows that came from beyond reach, from a distance, relentless, unseen, and unstoppable. In medieval Europe, the longbow rose to dominance, forged from yew, tall, powerful, and unforgiving in the wrong hands. It demanded strength, discipline, and years of mastery. Capable of piercing armor at range, it turned distance into destruction. In battle, thousands of arrows filled the sky, darkening the horizon before raining down with devastating force. The bow was no longer just a tool. It had become a weapon of war. No longer confined to survival, it now shaped the fate of armies and the outcome of battles. It controlled distance, turning space into advantage. It shaped strategies, forcing enemies to adapt or fall. Commanders relied on its reach, its precision, its silent efficiency. And often, victory was decided long before swords ever met, before enemies even reached the battlefield. But history does not stand still. As civilizations advanced, so did the weapons they carried. With the rise of firearms, the age of the bow began to fade. Gunpowder thundered across battlefields, breaking the silence that arrows once ruled. Guns required less training, less discipline, and far less time to master. They delivered greater force, pierced armor with ease, and changed the nature of war forever. The battlefield evolved from precision and patience to fire, smoke, and explosive power. And slowly, the weapon that had dominated for centuries was pushed into the shadows of history. Yet, the bow endured. Though battlefields changed and the thunder of firearms took center stage, the bow was never truly forgotten. It survived not only as a weapon, but as tradition, sport, and culture. Passed from generation to generation, it remained a symbol of discipline, precision, and mastery, From ceremonial archery to modern competition, its legacy continued to live on, a reminder of humanity's earliest ingenuity, when survival depended not on machines, but on skill, patience, and the strength of human hands. From survival to warfare to legend. Across centuries of conflict, through the rise and fall of empires, the bow endured. A weapon of hunters, a tool of warriors, a symbol of human ingenuity, silent, precise, timeless, the bow. Every weapon tells a story, and this is only the beginning.